Last episode, Rourke and Martin found a young boy in the basement, cowering and fending off a group of rats. They managed to rescue the boy and kill the rats, but as they were escaping, the giant brute rat uh, charged after them. Fortunately, they had enough distance, and Rourke brought up the rear and did indeed manage to escape without incident and allow Martin to escape carrying the child uh, with a successful athletics check. While Rurik barricades the door, we join Martin, Matron Mary, and the innkeeper up in the kitchen. The boy is laid out on the table, much where they did the surgery on the serving boy before on his hand, and Martin is questioning the innkeeper rather accusatorily. Who is this boy, and what is he doing in your basement? And the innkeeper's like, I don't know. I don't know. I know who the boy is. It's Callum. He's one of the farmers, the farmstead boys. He lives about a mile out, up the road. I don't know what he's doing in the basement, though. I'm not 100% sure that Martin believes the innkeeper, that he didn't have something to do with this. So he keeps sort of keeping a side eye on him and a side eye on the escape into the main room. And maybe he even positions himself sort of in such a way that he's still at the table with young Callum, who's still unconscious, by the way. So that he can get and block the door from in case the innkeeper would say make a break for it or something. Major Mary, do you have something for pain? I noticed an herbalist satchel. Do you happen to have something for pain, and maybe some? I think Martin's an herbalist also. Let me see how knowledgeable he is. He is an herbalist, and he's not bad at it actually. 11, so he is. Is that herbalist? No, his herbalist is. Oh, okay. Oopsie. His herbalist is 11. Yeah, there you go. So he is reasonably. No, I didn't give him any herbs because I forgot, frankly. So we're just going to say he has none. In the meantime, and maybe some marshweed or some bandages made of marshweed. And the mother, nods. Yes, of course, yeah, I do. I will. And she probably has it. The girls fetched it. The girls are there's still probably a couple girls here, although they might, because they're supposed to be in the common room. So I think she's sort of not gathered them in the kitchen, but she has them at a table pretty much directly outside so she can watch them. And maybe a couple of her more, and heck, a couple of her probably conked out on the table, like heads down on the table. Probably a couple of her better students are there just in case. I do think they took the stable boy, the serving boy, away in the meantime, like took him up to a room or something to convalesce in the meantime. If you have anything for pain, get it out. I'm going to wake young Callum here and see if he can tell us anything. And as that's happening, there's some thumpy footfalls from the basement, and Laura comes up looking a little, a little breathy, a little tired. He comes up, sort of thumps his mace, like just sort of drops it onto the table, sits down in a chair, looks at the innkeeper and says, "Our price just went up, old man. And with that, welcome to episode 5. So Callum takes something from his doctor's bag. He takes a small pouch from his doctor's bag, rolls it between his forefinger and his thumb, and lets out sort of an astringent, nettily burning smell, um, which he wafts it right on the, probably maybe smears it a little bit on the lip, the upper lip of the boy Callum, and Callum wakes up and coughs. Oh. And he's like, and Martin's sort of trying to keep him calm, right? There, Callum. My name is Martin. You know, do you remember? Do you remember what happened? Callum shit nods his head, right? Nods his head. And you tell us? Can you tell us how you got? And as he's doing this, no, I don't know. Work. I hate to go on tangents. I don't know that Rourke and Martin are friends, as much as they are acquaintances who have some common ground and have dealt with each other for a couple weeks or a few weeks maybe. So, and because Rourke is older by probably 10 years. So they're not super chummy, but I think they have at least a little bit of a rapport going, sort of. And so I think Martin is going to side eye the innkeeper. And I just want to see, does Martin or does Rourke pick up on sort of the side? I'm just going to make sort of almost a random yes, no roll. So I'm going to do a skill roll, and we're looking for, really a positive score. And I'll add maybe 1 or maybe 2. Yeah, there you go. A positive score. So I'm going to say that Rourke does pick up on the side eye with the innkeeper. And so Rourke, whose mace is still on the table, puts his hand sort of on the mace and readies, just gets into a slightly not slouched over in the chair, slightly more ready disposition, if that makes any sense. Callum, do you know how you got into the basement? And Callum's like, yes, sir. I was playing out beyond the field by the old wooden bridge. And I saw my friend Sir Plippy. Sir Plippy. Yes, sir, Sir Plippy. He's a knight. A knight. Yeah, and also a rabbit. Okay. What was Sir Plippy doing out in the field by the bridge? Well, sir, Sir Plippy said he needed my help to slay a nasty dragon. And so I followed him. He said to come this way, and he waved me over. There's a whole set of bushes, flowery bushes by that bridge. And he scuttled right underneath, and so I followed him. And did you find the dragon, Pelham? No, there wasn't a dragon, sir. Instead, it was so I couldn't find Sir. I didn't see Sir Plippy. He disappeared, and then I fell down this hole into a tunnel. Okay, so I think Martin thinks, okay, now I'm getting somewhere at least, regardless of how this kid, whatever he did with his, his imaginary buddy or whatnot, at least he right, he fell into a hole. So he's like, okay, by the bridge, there's a hole. Got it. Um, Now I'm gonna roll. Let's do a converse check on Martin 10, just to see sort of where he ends up. -1. So not great. But this isn't super difficult, right? He's just letting the kid tell his story. So if he would succeed on a 9 difficulty. So if this is like an 8 or 9 difficulty, he's going to succeed. So we'll actually give him a converse check there. And I don't think he'll have any problem sort of squeezing out the rest of the story from Callum. He just sort of lets him go. So the tunnel was dark. You couldn't see that. Oh no, no, sir. Luckily, I was very lucky. There was a light. The the man had it. The man. There was a man there. Callum nods. So what was the man doing? Sleeping, I think. He was sleeping. Callum nods again. And he had a light. Yeah, it was yes, it was just it was a rock. And it was glowing. Okay. And I took it and I tried to follow Sir Plippy. I thought he went down the tunnel. So did you find Sir Plippy down the tunnel then, Callum? No, sir. And Callum gets a little edgy, right? Just a monster. What did the monster look like, Cal? Rats, sir. You saw him rats. But the monster, was it a giant rat? Like, and maybe he pats the table like this big? Shakes his head. No, no, just like the rats, just like the rats that had me, sir. But there were a lot of them, and they were all tangled up on each other. Tangled up. Tangled up. Like they kept, they kept running at me and lunging at me, but they couldn't get, but then his tail was tied up and he couldn't get to me. And then I ran and he yelled after me. He talked to you. And Callum nods. Did he talk to you like Mr. Plippy talks to you? Sir Plippy, Sir Plippy. He's a knight, you know. Right. Sorry. Like Sir Plippy. Did the monster talk like Sir Plippy? No, I don't think so. Sir Plippy just talks, and I hear him with my ears. The monster, he just squeaked and shrieked and made all sorts of noises, and I just knew what he was saying. What was it saying, Calvin? About how hungry it was and how it was going to eat me? Can I go see my mom? And and Major Mary stops, intervenes at that point. That's enough. I think this young lad's had quite enough trauma for the evening. We need to get him home. And Warlock's like shakes his head. I'm not leaving that barricade. And Martin sort of, blows air out of his cheeks. He's sort of vaguely uncertain as to what to do. I'll take him. And it's the bodyguard. You said he's a mile up the road. And the innkeeper, says, yeah, mile up the road. And they arrange, right? So Tig, who's the bodyguard, which doesn't really matter, but I named him anyway, is going to take Callum home. Let me get my game notes up here. I have nothing. Oh, God. Callum, Martin. About how he arrived in the caves. I'll just leave it at that for now, not to take a bunch of time typing. Um, and so once Tig leaves with Callum, now tell me all about a good adventure you had with Sir Plippy. And Callum starts talking, forgetting a bit. And once they leave, I think both Martin and Rourke look over at the innkeeper, and the innkeeper looks back at both of them, is like, I know, the price just went up. And so that leaves us with what to do. What are the next steps here? So I think obviously Callum is potentially an unreliable narrator, but I don't know that they have any reason to disbelieve the story of him falling down a hole. Now, a talking rabbit knight, maybe that's not a thing, but falling down a hole and meeting a rat that talks at them. So I think there's probably a couple options. Let's think about our options. So they could open the door, open the front door, and possibly take care of the brute, which they might have to do anyway. And they can probably get some extra treatment from if Matron Mary. So we do have, and we're back to tangents, which I know you all love. So I have not finished the herbalism rules per se, but I do, over the course of all versions of Runebearer, have a list of herbs, and typically herbalism can give you like a D4. So for instance, if she does have Merkweave, I called it Marshweave, but it's also called Merkweave, and she's made bandages, then you're going to get a D4 of herbal healing out of there. And since they've not yet had herbal healing, Martin's going to be able to get, Lawrence going to be able to get a D4 more of his hit points back. I don't know that necessarily it would be worth it to use a bandage on Martin, but Martin might be selfish enough to take a bandage anyway and just plop it on onto his very minor wound and be up full. I'm going to say that she doesn't have anything particularly else. So I'm not going to scour through this and roll to see if she has buffs or anything for them. And that's what herbalism tends to do. It gives fairly minor buffs, and you can either find the herbs raw, which you see in this left-hand column, like the raw herbs. So for instance, Calandine, if you take it raw, if you just chew it, it's 1 charisma for an hour. And if you and the herbalist has the option to make it into a perfume, in which case they have to make a DL12 roll. And so the general herbalism cycle is the herbalist is in a region. The region has a list of herbs, like a random table of herbs. The region has a difficulty level. So the difficulty might be 10. And the herbalist rolls, and if they succeed, and they succeed by, X, Y, or Z. So if you succeed by 3 or 6 or 9, then you get D4 more doses of herbs or whatever that you can find. You roll on the table to see what you find, and then you get those raw. And then later on, when you have time, you can make the various recipes to then change or make a better version of that, right? So some of them are nothing uh, if you don't prepare them. So, for instance, herbal camp treatments heal an additional 1 hit point. So essentially, it allows the Merkweave to do +1 hit point, for instance, or you can make burn salve out of it, right? And so on and so forth. And that's sort of how it goes. So the herbalist usually has a bunch of herbs in bundles that they go, well, I have 3 doses of this minor buff and 3 doses of this minor buff, and I need tea out of this one to give you this other thing, which we don't, which otherwise it wouldn't do. And that's sort of how it goes. So we're going to say we get the Merkweave, and sure, we'll take it for both characters. So we're going to roll 2d4, and Rourke would be first. So we get a 3 and a 1. So Rourke is going to get 3 hit points back from herbal. And so that actually is going to drop that injury to 7 points. But now he's, I think he is, I don't know that there is anything else. He's magic, but we don't have any magic. And his injury is nothing. So let me go to their, the basement here. And so he gets 3 points. And he is full up. Martin is feeling good. So they do get herbally remediated, as it were. But there's still the question of what to do. And so again, you can either go in the quote unquote front door, and you're going to have to face the brute pretty much immediately. And though Tig might be fine bringing the kid back to his place, which is probably relatively safe, if I roll a 1, they don't make it. I'll roll a d12. If I roll a 1, maybe they don't make it. That would be sad. Okay, 6. They're fine. They're fine, people. It's all good. It's all good. Or we go and look for this hole, go down and assume that is sort of a back door into this place, because the kid obviously ran directly into a sleeping guy, which I don't know. I think let's roll. I don't even know what I'm rolling there. I'd be fairly sure they don't think the guy was sleeping. Maybe he was dead. Maybe he was injured. Like, why would you be sleeping in a tunnel? I mean, maybe he was sleeping. Maybe he didn't realize what was going on and just took shelter in this tunnel or something. But they run past the man, and then in theory, they would get to whatever this other creature is. So front door. So I'm going to write these down. So here we go. So game notes done. Teague, bodyguard, takes Callum home. He is the son of a farmer on a steading about a mile away. Done. So options. Knowing what they know, we're sort of looking at front door, and you fight the brute and see how that goes. And the brute isn't, I mean, against any one thing with it, the characters have 2-on-1, so they get now the advantages of outnumbering the bad guys. And so that is typically going to be bad news for the bad guys. Having said that, the thing was fairly big, probably fairly strong, might get in a good shot, and one good shot might be all it takes to take someone out of the fight or out of the campaign. So we want to avoid that. Backdoor, who is the sleeping man and right at the leading tangled rat creature. So those are the two obvious ones. Another one would be, does anyone around have beast lore? Maybe they can learn something about this. Maybe this is a thing. They might suggest, rounding up any, right? A sheriff, if there is a sheriff. Does this place have a sheriff, I wonder? Or a road warden? And then going in like that, right? But I will say this. I think the innkeeper, and we're going to call the innkeeper Simon, and he's going to say, no, I'm drawing the line there. I'll let you push me around on the price. But if you bring in a bunch of people, it's already bad enough that the bodyguard that he knows, and he points out the door where the bodyguard went, and that the matron knows, and who knows how chattery these girls are. I'm lucky if I'll even have an in by the time this gets around, let alone you calling in the sheriff and the road wardens. Do you know how often there's that road warden has it in for me? You know how often he's in here inspecting stuff, inspecting my place? He's just looking for a reason to close me down. There you go. And I'm going to actually put that. Maybe that's a thing. Road warden is looking for a reason to close me down. I think Martin's gonna poke at that. He already used converse, so he'll use it again, but he doesn't get a check for it. But this is probably like a DL 14, so it's a high DL. No, he's not gonna do it. The guy grumbles and says, I don't know. He's like, well, why does he want to close you down? The innkeeper claims to not know. I'm thinking maybe there's a cousin or something who wants to open an inn, and if we can get this guy booted out of here, then something like that. But he doesn't know, or he does not going to say. And it's not really the time to press anyway. So I think I think they. So, is there anything else I can think of doing? What about? So the only other thing would be take a couple of days and prepare. Mostly it'd be alchemy. So he'd probably gin up another potion or two and healing. The only problem with that is simply that they don't know what's going on, and it could escalate by then, right? You already have this thing right at the door of the basement, so I don't think that's an option. I think it'd be a very generous GM that let the party sit around for 2 days, um, and nothing untoward happened. So I think we have to go in. The only thing we could do is knock on doors at night. But again, I think the innkeeper is a little bit reluctant. Not that he has a say, but since ultimately you unless you're willing to extort the guy or, you know, yeah, unless you're willing to extort the guy, which don't get me wrong, I don't know that they're not, but then he still has the money. Like he's still the one paying him. And if he's like, well, I mean, if we're literally, I'm paying you to settle this quietly. I'm not paying you to go around town and tell everybody, hey, there's a rat problem in the damn inn. And I think Martin can see his point. Martin's like, well, I mean, there are rats in every inn, but I see your point, old man. I don't, I don't want to ruin your business, especially because you'll be giving us room and board in perpetuity. You'll be giving us room and board every time we're here for life, right? Grumble, grumble. But I think that's going to be part of the deal. I think they're going to try to work that into the deal. And I don't know if this becomes a home base because it's not quite where they want to be. But if they'll be traveling up and down the Great North Road here, that would be a great, so they want this inn to not change hands because that would be awesome. So I think it's for first two, front door or back door, I think is sort of where we're at. And I definitely think that Rourke sees some advantage in going straight through the front door and killing the brute. Rourke would be like, well, look, if we kill that thing, if we kill that thing and that's not the boss, as it were, and he doesn't say like video game boss, but he literally means, right? He's like, well, if that's just another one of these big rats and the other thing, the monster is actually in charge, then killing the big thing means that he won't show up when we're killing the guy in charge. Even if the guy, on the other hand, you could go for a shot on goal, right? And it might very well be that you go in the back door, find the monster, take your shot, and win that fight. And then this thing is, no longer a problem. I mean, he might be a problem. He's a giant freaking rat, but he's no longer attacking you. He's now just a beast, and a beast can just be put down. Like you could, whereas, so it largely comes down to shot on goal or fight the big guy so that the big guy doesn't come when you go after the boss. I think very simply, I'm going to roll 1d6. A 1 or a 2, they go in the front door, and a 3, 4, and 3 and up, they go in the back door and try to decapitate, quote unquote, the rat army of doom here. So 1 and 2 front door, 2. They're going in the front door. I might have should have made that last. No, they're going to the front door now. Done. So that's the plan. The plan is to take out the brute and So okay, and I think so. I think they will. I think that's it. I think they will get themselves ready. I think Rourke is only down 7 points. Martin is down none. I think that's pretty good. I do think we need to at least check real quick. So yes, okay. So I'm just looking at his sheet here. I'm just looking at his potion sheet. Not a lot of heals left, but that's okay. You're typically not drinking a heal at the middle of the night, or the middle of the bout, middle of the night. Yes. And he actually, I think he used an acid splash. So there, he threw it on Rorik, but he did use one. So okay, all right. So I think I have a rough, super rough plan done. So let me pause real quick, hit the restroom. I'm going to come back. You won't notice, by the way, or maybe you will. I don't know, but I'll come back and then we will see if we can take the brood out and drive to the finish of this. So, okay, so our heroes prepare a little bit, and by prepare, I mean we're not talking like a huge amount of preparation. Largely comes down to what potions are we going to, be ready with. Um, in terms of, so for instance, I think Rorik will drink the iron skin that he has from Martin. And the iron skin is going to give him what? 1 to 3 plus 1 temporary hit points. So 2 to 4 temporary hit points. And what the temporary hit points are going to do is the first time Rorik gets hit, that's going to take off those hit points. And so you're going to avoid possibly a wound on that first shot. And temporary hit points are really good if you can manage a good source of them because of that, because they change the calculus on do you take a wound or not, right? Because a wound is a quarter of your hit points, but it's actually you taking a quarter of the hit points. So it's almost like those temporary hit points are almost like a blade of armor, kind of. And so if I take, if Rourke takes 10 in the first shot, this brood just cuts right through him and takes 10 and does 10 points to him. Okay, that sucks. But if he has 4 temporary hit points, he can only take 6. The temporaries go away, but then that turns a wound into not a wound. And so that's sort of super critical. I think the other thing we'll do is Martin will prepare, so he'll have in hand a ice vial, and the ice vial is 2d6 ice damage, and on a toughness 12, you have to save toughness versus DL12, or be chilled for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. Chill is -2 damage. So if he hits the brute and the brute fails a save, all of a sudden the brute is doing less damage now. And less damage means less wounds. By the way, I think it's a terrible idea to go it this way. But but I I'm trying to not play as the players, and I'm trying to not play only as the GM. I'm trying to play sort of as the author and to allow myself to be surprised by what the plot is and be surprised by what the quote unquote what the protagonists do. So that's why you're going to see a lot of, well, on a 1 to X, they do this, and on a 5 or 6 or whatever, they do this other thing. You'll see a lot of that. We'll try to make it reasonable. They're not stupid. I think Rourke makes a good case that what he's worried about is he's worried about fighting the big bad guy, and then this thing showing up. So he wants them one at a time. And he thinks the other way around is unlikely. He doesn't think the boss will show up to protect the brood if the brood's still there. So I think Rourke is going to take the iron skin before they go in. Rourke takes iron skin. And so I'm going to mark off iron skin. And instead, I'm going to mark his hit points. So if I roll 1d3 plus 1, he has 3 temporary hit points. So that means, I don't like this because um, I'm going to just put it here. Because otherwise, it'll just because he's down hit points. If he had 43 hit points, it would be obvious they were temporary, but that's not. So because at 3 temporary hit points, they're not his hit points. They are a buffer before we reach his hit points, and that is absolutely important. And it's going to be important in this fight, I bet. And then Martin is ready to throw a chill vial. And they're going to, as quietly as possible, move the furniture away from the door. I think the matron essentially gets the innkeeper to put the girls up in 1 room or 2 rooms if he has them. I think there's 1 or 2 outbuildings I mentioned, and those probably also have rooms as well. So I think the matron wants the girls out of harm's way, so she gets them out of harm's way. She will remain here with obviously her herbal remedies, etc. here just in case someone needs assistance. Does she keep one of her? Does she keep 1 or 2 of her students here? Let's say on an 8 up, she does. 12. She absolutely does. So she has 2 of her best students, Alice and Betty. I don't know, right? We don't need their names. Um, but we will keep them. She will keep them here. They are her best, like the best medical, in case there is a need. The innkeeper is not able to get any sleep in any case. And so he will nervously sit and pace, um, you know, and wait for word from our heroes. They head down. They quietly move the furniture out of the way. Word is going to open the door. We will roll sneak first, just in case. He is not going to be sneaky. There is a noise. This thing will be ready if it's here. So first things first. On a 1 or a 2 on a D12, let's just say it's not here. That would suck because it's not there. So they peek in. Ah, oh, God damn it. Of course it's not here. And so now the question is it lying in wait for them? Oh, that's fascinating. That's 50-50 probably. Okay. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to make their, oh, whoa, hey, buddy. I didn't like that at all. They're going to make their way through the place, being fairly cautious, right? I mean, they know this place is dangerous and they know it's not just a couple rats. And we'll just use, so they'll, right? So they're moving. And I think it is. I think, yes, right? 1 to 6. Yes, it is waiting for them somewhere. And so that is the question. Where is it? So let's roll. I think 1, 2, 3 puts it somewhere here, like the ambush point. 4, 5, 6 will put the ambush point here. 7, 8, 9 puts the ambush point here. And then 10, it's just gone all the way back to its back to its master, maybe, right? Or yeah, let's do that. Let's stick with that for now. So let's roll a d10. 9. Okay. So it is lying in wait. And I hate to say it. I mean, this is just going to be, they're going to check each place, give it a cursory, right? They're going to make their way to the bad guy, give each of these places a cursory look. And so the first room obviously is nothing. The second room is going to be like this. And I think we're going to have to make, I hate to say this, we're going to have to make a check for Martin, I'm guessing, because I see it, right? Because Martin's going to be sort of left here momentarily, or he's a step behind. And when we're checking in here to see what's what, then man, I think it would be an easy time for this thing to just run in and try to pick him off. So let's make a search check for Martin. It's going to be a DL10, I think. He's at a little bit of a disadvantage for this. So he's 1 down. 3. So he's going to make it. So he is not going to be surprised, and he will indeed be able to warn Rurik. And as this thing rushes out, we're going to be able to at least not lose a round, right? So let's get the turn order out real quick here. Real quick. Turn order. And we're going to roll. So Martin, obviously Rurik and Martin and the Brute, and we're going to roll in that order. Roll 3d12. Rurik is a 10. Martin is a 6. The Brute is a 2, unfortunately. So the party does indeed sort of see it. Maybe they hear it. As Rurik is peeking around, he hears like the breath of this thing. And Martin hears it. Rurik. I think it's Tar. I think it's Tar left. Blood turns around, right? And then this thing does not get the jump. As it runs out, Rurik is actually coming to intercept. So he will get sort of the first move. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll save the half action for when it comes. And it's going to move on up, trying to get to Martin. But Rurik's going to take the actual first shot. I mean, and heck, he might just totally tap this thing and it's done. He's gonna one hit this, and it's gonna be incredible, and yeah, we're gonna be done. It's the shortest fight ever, folks. That is my prediction. Let's see. So what is this thing? So I made up a quick bad guy here for us. So I had so full disclosure, right? I had a list of bosses that were possibly the cause of all this. And based on sort of what possibly was happening, and we won't get to pretend you don't see that. Based on that, I was like, okay, well, I'll make a bunch of different creatures that might be. So I had a rat queen, and I have a rat king, which again I shouldn't have showed you, but that's fine. But since the rat king showed up and I wasn't going to be able to use the queen, I weakened the queen a tiny bit and made it sort of a lieutenant instead of the big baddie. And so I cut the hit points and cut I cut it just, a little bit, just enough that I felt it wasn't going to be the be all end all fight kind of. We'll see. This thing could still kick the heck out of them. But let me copy the brute down. Do I have the bestiary up? I do. I want to copy rat and brute and copy those words. And then we're going to go into here. And GM notes it. And it's not a giant rat. It is a rat brute. The mini boss. Save it. And I don't even need all that. I can just literally pull up the one-liner, and there you go. So it has an attack of 11. Defense is 9 and 7. So just like a rat, it's big and a little slow comparatively. It's a D6, D8 damage. Armor 2 everywhere. It has 32 hit points, and that means an 8 wound threshold, which means ultimately you have to do 10 points of damage or somehow pierce the armor to wound it. Initiative 0, move of 6. Saves are 8, except for muscle and toughness is a 12. Done. As it goes, Rourke gets to... So he went up and saved a half phase. So technically he's now a 2. So we should keep that in mind. So he is saved. So you can do that. You can save part of your move and so on. And let's put a marker on him to show. I wish these, we're going to take the nameplate off of him. We know who he is. So now Martin, we're going to put a thing on him, and we're going to put, what are we putting on him? How about just yellow? He has a saved phase. So he's got a big yellow. That's hard to see. Son of a bitch. Okay, let's try that again. Let's take the yellow off him and put a giant pink dot. That actually is not hard to see. So he has a saved half phase, which means he can attack, hopefully, when this thing approaches. And I think, so this thing technically is back here when Lord moves up. Martin moves up, faces, and he will throw, because I moved this thing, but it's a 2. So literally, Lord moves, and then Martin moves. Allow him to do one last thing. Let's call him THP, so it's a single line. There we go. And now Rorik technically is also a 2, because he has given up his initiative to wait. Martin comes up and throws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That does put him in the second range band, so this is a -2 to throw. So throwing skill, he throws the chill potion. He's even up. And he gets a 4, so he is going to hit. So he tosses and he hits, and it shatters on him. And immediately the whiskers and the fur starts to freeze over. And he does 2d6. Oops, I have no idea what just happened there. Roll 2d6. And he does 6 points of damage to the rat. And the rat, it doesn't matter where it hits him. It's specific. The rat only takes 4 points. But having said that, because the fur counts as armor or whatever, the rat does have to save now. Toughness 12, he's going to fail. And so the rat is now chilled. So we're going to put a CHL on him. The rat is chilled. And how long is he chilled for? I forget. He is chilled for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. So we're going to roll. Two. God damn it. Only 2 rounds, huh? Chilled for 2 rounds. Okay. And Martin is done. The rat's going to charge up because it was charging. Rorik gets a shot at the rat first because he has a longer attack. And so he's going to utilize his saved phase now. So we will take the pink. Oops, we'll take the pink off of Rorik, I should say. Rorik takes his shot. Oh, and he's going to miss. And I am going to let the rat move through in this case because the rat intended to move through ahead of time. And Rorik's, like, he was trying to get the jump on them. Rorik intercepted. So he's going to end up there, and he is going to charge attack Martin. So his attack is 11. That turns into a 9. I don't love it, but if Rorik would have hit him, then I'd have stopped him there. And he is going to hit Martin. So now we need to make a macro. I'm sorry. I should have done this ahead of time, but we're going to do this right now. So let's add a macro, call it brute damage. And the brute hits. Brute hits for 1d6 plus 1d8. In the location, he does not pierce. Save changes. Put it in the bar. Done. So the brute hits Martin for 6 damage in the leg. Martin has 2 armor there. Oh, 1, probably. 1. He probably only has padded pants. Because Martin was trying to not have too much weight on those legs, and he does not have weight on the legs. He takes 5 damage. It's not a wound, though, so that's good. So he's down to 22. -2. -2, right? So he actually does 4 damage, so Martin only takes 3 points because he is chilled. Right? He's chilled. Done. And Rorik has gone. And in fact, Rorik will be directly in front of him. So I will actually put him at a, I mean, he is sure still a 2, but he's first because, although, I mean, say he's a 3 because he did interrupt ahead of time because the brute is like a named lieutenant. So technically on a tie, he actually goes first because we, named lieutenants like get that advantage. That's the end of round 1. Oops. There we go. Round two, it is Martin. Martin could stand in. So the rat comes in and attacks. He's not going to, but I will say this. He's definitely not going to give his flank. So he would actually be effectively like that. Because then both of them are in his front. So Martin could stand in. Martin could back away. Rourke is so when you disengage an opponent, you get taken an attack of opportunity. And you are at a -2 to your defense, or he's at a +2 to hit, I should say. When you take that attack opportunity, unless you have someone who can occupy the attention of the enemy because he's engaged with him, and that would be Rourke. Martin could back away right now, pull out another potion for a throw next round. And because he does count as unarmored, the acid flask would do. He's not unarmored. He has hide, but he's burning the hide. It's not like you're burning a piece of armor. So he would do 2d4 damage over 2 rounds. That's not terrible. That's 10 points of damage. So I think Martin is going to do that. Martin is going to take a step back for a half phase, pull a potion, and he has an acid flask ready for next round. In the meantime, Rourke's going to go. And I don't know if Rourke goes for. So do you wild abandon now? Right now, because you have the temporary hit points. And you know the first attack is unlikely to wound you. Even if he does 14 points and hits me in the chest, that's 11 points. 11 minus the 3 temporaries, 8. So the first attack's not going to wound Rourke unless maybe he hits him on the bare arm. That lowers your defense, so you're likelier to get hit by quite a bit because this thing has a decent attack. But do you go for it? Go for the big hit. Maybe you club it in the head like you did those other little rats, and that, effectively ends this combat, or close to ends it, or stuns him, or we've been making a lot of use of Fight with Wild Abandon. That's, it tanks his defense so bad, but it ups your armor value. That compensates actually quite a bit. Armor was strangely enough, that 1 point of armor value just does wonders. And one of the so this is a tangent, by the way. I should totally just get moving because it's already an hour in, and you guys are tired of listening to me, I'm sure. But the thing about armor is so Runebearer, you can certainly get nickel and dime to death, and some creatures do sort of require it. Undead are hard to wound. Some big guys are hard to wound. And you might end up nickeling and diming them to death. But a lot of the game is, can I do a wound? Can I do enough damage to get a wound in on this guy? And so strangely enough, what armor does is largely, aside from your wound number, it effectively ups your wound number because you take less damage. So I have to do 14 if I'm going to get through 4 points of armor and then do 10 points to Rourke. I need to do 14 instead of 13, or instead of, and so on. So it makes a big, big difference to have that armor. I say he fights with wild abandon and goes for it. He's going to rely on the Iron Skin to save him that first attack, and he's going to go for him right now. So he puts fight with wild abandon on. Right? So he's fight with wild abandon. He is an 11 versus the rat's 9. And so he's going to take his shot. Oh, that's a terrible attack. That's going to miss entirely. We didn't roll tactics yet. I should have freaking rolled tactics. God damn it. I'm bad at that. I need someone over my shoulder saying tactics. And it's right here, for God's sake. It's right there. It's right there. Uh, I think he will use, he's going to use an inspiration then instead. And if he had a tactics, he wouldn't have to use inspiration. Gosh darn it. So we're going to use an inspiration and we're going to re-roll it. There you go. And he rolls a 9. So rolls 9 above. So he gets a 9, 11 plus 9 is 20. The rat rolls a 1 now and gets like a pathetic 10 or something. So he smashes the rat this time. So Rurik damage. Rurik hits for, 13 damage plus 2 more, 15 damage in the 6. So chest. So 15 damage in the 6. The rat only takes 13 of that because he has 2 armor everywhere. So 13. Subtract 13, and we have 15 left. However, the rat has a wound number of 8. So 8 and 11, that is a 2-die wound. The 2 dice are 5. He rolled a 5 and a 5. So he did do a wound in the chest location, and he did a 5. The rat is bleeding 1. So he is chilled for 2 rounds, and he is now bleed 1. So Martin's action went. The rat went once, so we were only chilled for 1 more round. So I'll put that. Martin is done. The rat's going to attack Martin. I'm not Martin, Rurik. I'm sorry. The rat's going to attack Rurik. And the rat is an 11. Rurik is now a 9 defense because fight with wild abandon. That's going to have him hit. Going to take the first attack because Dungeon Scroll errored. Please retry. Ooh, I don't like that. The brute hits for 13 goddamn damage in the leg. Tail sweeps him. What do you think? I think he tail sweeps him in the leg, in the foot. Rurik has 2 armor in the foot, 3 because fight with wild abandon gives him 1 more, and the brute does -2 damage. So -2 is 11, right? So we have 11 damage. Rurik has 2 armor there, so we're down to 9 damage. Rurik takes the 3 hit points off, and he takes 6 points of damage. So the temporary hit points are gone, and we took 6 points of damage, which is not a wound. Which is not a wound. But that does end round 2, and is now round 3. We were going to throw. We were actually going to, Martin is going to wait for Rurik. So he's going to drop his initiative to 3 and actually wait for Rurik to go. Rurik is going to attack. He didn't get knocked off his feet, although we could have rolled that. That wouldn't have been a bad, right? Tail sweep. Maybe we should add that to the brute's repertoire. It did hurt him, but not so badly. So Rourke is going to go. He's going to take his shot. He's an 11 to a 9. Oops, he didn't do any damage yet. I mean, he would have hit for an amazing amount of damage, by the way. That would have been great. But he does hit. And now he rolls damage, and he rolls 11, 12, 13 points of damage. So the rat's going to take 11 more. Oh, he's kicking its ass there. Is it a wound? It is. It is a 2-die wound. Because 8 is his threshold, plus 3 more. So since he took 11, bam. A 2-die wound in the chest. I think we just saved ourselves a potion. Yeah, he is done. Look at those wound dice. 10 and 12. KO and shock. Shock 3 dice is almost certainly going to kill it, let alone the KO. I mean, the KO KOs him, but then also he takes 3 dice of shock. So yeah, he is super dead. Let's put it that way. Three dice of shock, 8 points. Yeah, he's -4. He's dead. Our 2 heroes, neither of them have wound damage. Rourke rolls a d8. Martin rolls a d4. Oh my. He shakes off 8 points, which really he can only shake off 6 because that's as much as he had. And Martin shakes off all the damage that he took. Our heroes effectively got away from that unscathed. Primarily because, I'll be totally honest, I think the brute hit for 13. Yeah, it was the temporary hit points. And the chill. So it was the debuffs and the temp hit points. Because if the brute wasn't chilled and we didn't have temp hit points, then Rurik takes a wound, so you can't shake that off now. Although he did graze him, so it all worked out anyway, right? So, okay. So our heroes sort of carry the day easily, I suppose. I mean, 2 things sort of happened there. First off, the brute could have hit Martin for 13 damage, in which case this fight looks entirely different. And like I said, the chill worked really well because it knocks 2 points off the temp hit points. All of that made a huge difference and kept Rurik sort of up and kept Rurik up and not injured. So we're going to call it there. And we'll probably call the session there. So we'll do experience when we come back next time. And then we'll see if these heroes can take this to the final, finish this off. So thank you for hanging out with me for episode 5. And we'll be getting ready for the final episode here in a bit.